Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Egypt is a land that has produced many great ulama over the years, for over 1,000 years to be exact. And that should not come as any surprise, because the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, under the leadership of Hazrat Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, fought and spilled their blood on the shores of Egypt in order to make the deen of Allah supreme. After conquering the land for Islam, the Muslims began spreading the deen of Allah far and wide, and Egypt became a hub of Islamic activity as the ulama from the various madhahib, but mainly the Hanafi and Shafi'i madhabs, started settling and teaching the deen there. And so it was in the city of Al-Qahira, or Cairo as it's called in English, in the year 926 after Hijrah, that once again a great Imam came forth. His name was Imam Zainuddin ibn Ibrahim ibn Muhammad ibn Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Qahiri al-Misri, but he is famously known as Imam ibn Nujaym al-Misri Rahimahullaah. There were actually two Imam ibn Nujayms. Both are great and famous in their own right. They were brothers. The one was Imam Zainuddin ibn Nujaym, and the younger brother was Imam Sirajuddin ibn Nujaym, Rahimahullaah. But when we use the name Imam ibn Nujaym unrestrictedly, then it always applies to the older brother, Imam Zainuddin ibn Nujaym, Rahimahullah. From a very young age, Imam ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah was drawn to studying the deen, and the topic he took most to as his field of specialization was that of fiqh. To get an idea of just how much of a faqih Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah was, one can gauge the level of his knowledge from the fact that at the time Egypt was a bustling hub of ilm and ulama, and kitabs were available all over. And it is mentioned about Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah that there was not a single kitab of fiqh in Cairo at the time, but that he had read, studied and benefited from it. Whether it was a small single volume or a massive multi-volume kitabs, it did not matter to Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah because he absorbed all the knowledge he came across. The most famous teacher of Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah was Imam Shihabuddin Ahmad al-Misri rahimahullah, that is more famously known as Imam ibn Shilbi. Besides him, Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah also studied under the other senior ulama of his time, like Imam Sharafuddin al-Bulqini, Imam Abu al-Fayd al-Sulami, and Imam Aminuddin al-Hanafi rahimahumullah, amongst others. So great and intelligent was Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah that all his teachers not only attested to it, but they also gave him permission to teach and give fatwa during their lifetime. And this itself was a great praise, because in the days of old, a student wouldn't just give fatwa in the presence of his teacher. Rather, the teacher alone would conduct the classes and he alone would give fatwa. So to have been regarded as being knowledgeable and competent enough to give fatwa and conduct classes by not one, but all a person's teachers, that is itself a rare thing. Having been given this position by his teachers, Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah began teaching the deen. And soon he had his own circle of students that were studying under him. Foremost amongst his students was his younger brother, Imam Sirajuddin ibn Nujaym rahimahullah. And under the tutelage of his brother, he flourished and became a great alim as well. Besides teaching, Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah was also very much drawn to writing kitabs. So he began authoring kitabs on a few different topics. But the bulk of what Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah wrote related to just two fields, fiqh and usulul fiqh. And in both these things, Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah excelled greatly. The most famous kitab of usulul fiqh that Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah wrote was Al-Ashbah wal-Nadha'ir. Almost 200 years prior to Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah, there lived a great Shafi'i alim. His name was Imam Tajuddin as-Subki rahimahullah, and he had written a kitab on Shafi'i usul, and he had named it Al-Ashbah wal-Nadha'ir. So it was based on this kitab that Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah wrote his own one, and he used the same name of the kitab as well. The only difference was that Imam Subki rahimahullah wrote for the Shafi'i madhab, while Imam ibn Nujaym rahimahullah wrote his for the Hanafi madhab. This kitab was greatly received by the ulama, and it became a major source of usul for the Hanafi madhab and is used right up until today. Besides this though, Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah also wrote other books on usul, and his deep understanding of usul made him stand out amongst the ulama. On the topic of fiqh, the most famous kitab that Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah wrote was the well-known Hanafi kitab known as Al-Bahr al-Ra'iq, which is an explanation of Imam al-Nasafi Rahimahullah's kitab, which is called Kanz al-Daqa'iq. And this kitab, Al-Bahr al-Ra'iq, remains as a standard resource that is always referenced by the ulama when giving their fatwa. This kitab in total amounts to 8 volumes, but only 7 of those volumes were written by Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah. However, before he got the chance to complete it, Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah passed away. And the task of completing the kitab was taken up by the Mufti of the Hanafis in Egypt. His name was Imam Abdul Qadir At-Turi Rahimahullah. The young brother of Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah also wrote an explanation of Kanz al-Daqa'iq, and he named his kitab An-Nahrul Fa'iq. The far-reaching effects of the teachings of Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah can be taken from the fact that one of Imam Ibn Nujaym's students was Imam At-Tumurtashi Rahimahullah, and he wrote a famous kitab which is known as Tanweerul Absar. And it was based on Tanweerul Absar that Ad-Darul Mukhtar of Imam Al-Haskafi Rahimahullah was written. And this kitab in turn had the famous Ar-Raddul Muhtar of Imam Ibn Abidin Ash-Shami Rahimahullah written upon it. Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah passed away when he was very young. He was almost turning 44 years old when he passed away. This is possibly the only thing that prevented Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah from reaching higher levels. In fact, Imam Sha'rani Rahimahullah used to say that if it wasn't for the fact that Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah passed away so young, then he would have become not only in fiqh and usul, but in fact in every science, he would have become a miracle of his time. Imam Ibn Nujaym Rahimahullah was one of those select ulama that lived a short life, but it was so full of benefit that a person can truly see that he utilized all his time for the sake of Allah in serving the deen. He passed away and was buried in Cairo in the year 970 after Hijrah. Rahimahullah. May Allah grant us the ability to see the importance of time and the importance of not wasting time, and give us the tawfiq to spend our time wisely in the service of the deen of Allah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen, wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.